The latest merger in the Canadian cannabis space is a medical play. Aleafia is a licensed medical marijuana producer, merging now with Canabo, which owns clinics with doctors who specialize in cannabis-related medicine. For more on this deal, we're joined by Julian Fantino. He's executive chairman of Aleafia Health, and he, of course, is also a former federal cabinet minister and a leader of 2 police forces here in Ontario. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
The company Aleafia refers to this deal as ushering in a new phase in its corporate development. Why don't you take it from there?
Well, basically, it's patient-focused and trying to deal primarily with the needs of patients in a medical world, if you will. So we're looking at doing everything we can, from assessments to treatments, and of course to grow a quality product for them to use as prescribed or as ordered. So we're looking at a fully integrated operation where we go from seed to use, and hopefully making things, improving things for people who need the medical cannabis to improve their situation.
We just spoke to another cannabis sector CEO. He's in the recreational space. He was fairly skeptical about the notion of medical marijuana, says that the clinical data that supports other pharmaceutical drugs is not there. What is your company's response to that type of skepticism?
Well, we rely heavily on the data that we have, and the data that's growing exponentially as we see the numbers of people coming to the medical cannabis side, feeling as they do that they've not been helped by traditional medical intervention. So also getting people off of opiates, all of those kinds of issues, people are turning to that. Our numbers are increasing significantly. The patient numbers are certainly significant, to the point where we are now looking to expand our clinic operations across Canada. So I think, if anything, it's going to continue even more. With the science developing, and that's part of our mission as well, dealing with the science piece. So I think that leaving recreational cannabis aside as it will unfold, my experience and our experience has been that medical cannabis has been and will continue to grow exponentially.
What kind of journey have you made as an individual? You spent much of your career directing police officers to prevent people from distributing this very product.
Well, that's a very good question that begs an answer, obviously. And I basically enforced the law as was written, as is. Mm-hmm. That was my job. Moving on to the political world, when I landed on the veterans file, I had an opportunity to be educated and informed about the plight of veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress issues, chronic pain management, and so forth, who were not being helped very much by opiates, and who were turning to self-medicate with marijuana. And so they lobbied to have the government step into this, if you will, conflict with their needs and what was available to them. We did that, and we were able to provide them with a regime that has been a tremendous response to their issues. So I became aware, certainly, and I then set out to do a lot of learning and met with a lot of people in this space, doctors, scientists, and so I am a convert to what can be done to better help people who are not being helped otherwise with traditional medicine.
And of course, for many years, and I guess we're still in that period, there were the gray market clinics which purport to be selling marijuana on a medical basis, but I think a lot of people suspect they're selling it on a recreational basis. Your thoughts there? Will patients be better served by proper clinics as opposed to the gray market clinics?
Well, absolutely. The gray market clinics are just basically shotgunning the whole thing, and some of it's quite illegal, actually. What we're trying to do is we're trying to also elevate the science. Our mission is to, that's why we're doing our own grow as well, is to elevate the properties of the cannabis, the strains and so forth, so as it can best address the kinds of issues that people are actually needing help with, health issues that they need help with. And one of the things that we're also doing is we're collecting a lot of data that helps us identify what works best for certain ailments. So all of that's part of the mix, that vertical thing that we're talking about.
22 clinics. What are the company's growth ambitions?
Well, they're quite ambitious, actually, and the reason they are, it's not because we're pushing it, it's because of the demand. We're having a lot of doctors that are wanting, medical people wanting to get into this space, who want to learn. Part of our effort is also education. And then along with that, they want to themselves engage in better treatment opportunities for their patients. So we're looking at an ambitious expansion model across the land within the next year or so. Numbers are still being worked on, but we've got a pretty good indication as to where we can go and how it is that we can get there and why.
The opioid epidemic across this entire continent is causing so much pain and so much destruction in the lives and families. Is there a possibility here that medical marijuana can provide a much safer substitute?
I actually believe that, and the people we're working with believe that, and also the results that we're seeing with patients who are off of opiates, who have relied extensively on opiates, who have now turned to medical cannabis, and how their life has improved, their issues have improved. So it may be anecdotal for some, but you can't counter the direct evidence felt and experienced by the very people who are, in fact, the sufferers of health issues.
Okay, last question. As a former very senior law enforcement official, do you believe that the legalization of recreational marijuana will significantly take market share away from the criminal element?
Well, I think it will, obviously, and provided all the checks and balances are in there, and we know that the province and the federal government are working extensively on those accountabilities, the regulations, the oversight, the governance of all of that. So if those things are in place, certainly it will take market share away from organized crime.
Julian Fantino, thank you a great deal.
Pleasure, thank you.
Julian Fantino is Executive Chairman of Aleafia Health.